Chapter 1271, Bringing Things to an End. Tang Along slowly shook his head, but the smile on his face didn't diminish. It's just a matter of course that you pay when you lose the game. You shouldn't have come here if you don't have the capital. You should be from China too, right? I'll give you face and one last chance since we're both Chinese. I'll have the amount you owe me. You must pay me at least $2.4 billion, else you won't leave here alive. Du Chengfeng almost cried. Where would he get $2.4 billion? Even if he were to sell himself and everything he had, the amount wouldn't be worth so much either. You still can't take it? If so, I'm afraid you'll have your death anniversary next year in the next few days, Tang Along said with a smile. Du Chengfeng was anxious and blurted out, I still have a solution left. You do? The smiling arc on the corner of Tang Along's mouth went higher as he said, then I'm giving you half an hour to transfer the money to my account. Bam. The VIP lounge's door was pushed by someone from the outside. Tang Guang, dressed in white and smiling, walked from the outside and saw the scene inside. He shook his head with a smile and said, Little Marshal Uncle, the fight at the other places will be over if you keep playing like this. Tang Along slightly smiled and replied, just gimme half an hour. Tang Guang pulled a chair and kicked the black man's body aside. He then shifted to Du Chengfeng and asked with a smile, what's up with this fella, though? He owes me some money and I'm waiting for him to collect the amount. By the way, you still have 29 minutes left. Tang Along chuckled. Du Chengfeng shuddered and his lips squirmed a few times. He finally pulled out his mobile phone with a panicked look. After a few seconds of thinking, he dialed a cell number. After his call was picked up by the other party, he said, Hang, please save me. I need money. 2.4, no, just $2.1 billion. I'm gonna die if I don't have enough money. Did you just gamble again? A cold voice replied from the phone. I was just going to play casually. I never thought that I'd lose this badly all of a sudden, Du Chengfeng bitterly said with a distressed face. I'm your little uncle and the uncle of your brother-in-law. Please save me. I'll listen to you in the future as long as you save me. I don't have enough money, the voice sounded stiff when it replied from the phone again. Du Chengfeng's face changed greatly and he shouted, Hang, your father Han Jintong has ruthlessly turned his back on me after the fallout, you can't be as ruthless as him. Just save me and I'll listen to all of your orders in the future. I'll even apologize to your father if you want me to do so. How much time do you have left? The indifferent voice from the phone replied again. Du Chengfeng looked happy and hurriedly said, half an hour. No, I only got 28 minutes left. The man said that he'll kill me if he doesn't see $2.4 billion in his account within 28 minutes. Hang, the other two men and their bodyguards have been killed, so please hurry up. Got it. Tang Guang, who was sitting a few meters away, looked at Du Chengfeng as the man put away his phone. He frowned and then asked in a deep voice, I overheard you talking with someone and you mentioned someone named Han Jintong, yes? What is he to you? He's my big brother's uncle, Du Chengfeng said. Why? Do you know him? Then who's the person you just called? Tang Guang asked again. He's Han Jintong's son, my nephew, Han Hang, Du Chengfeng said. Tang Guang took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice again, answer my last question, what's the name of Han Jintong's granddaughter? Han Qinggu, Du Chengfeng answered without thinking. Tang Guang's complexion changed. He shifted to Tang Along and said, Marshal Uncle, let him go. Tang Along creased his brows and a thoughtful look flashed on his face. He nodded and slowly said, Du Chengfeng, I'll forgive you this time on the account of my martial nephew. Get the hell out of this place at once. Little did Du Chengfeng think that this handsome young man who had just entered and asked him a few questions would make such a request, and agree to let him go without anything attached. Do they really waive his debt of $2.4 billion? Suddenly, his expression slightly changed and hurriedly asked, "Who are you? Do you know that Qingwu girl?" "Shut up." Tang Guang's face turned cold and he shouted in a deep voice, "Get the hell out this once, else I won't mind killing you here and now." "Yes, yes. I'm leaving. I'll be gone at once." Du Chengfeng was startled and hurriedly run with his 2 bodyguards. Tang Along glanced at the casino staff and gave them a hand signal. After they left, he curiously asked, "Who's this Han Qingwu, Tang Guang? Is she really worth $2.4 billion? Sigh, you'd better not mention her name in front of Grand Master, Martial Uncle." Tang Guang sighed and wryly smiled. "That woman. She's a demon barrier in Grand Master's heart." Tang Along was surprised. He knew that Tang Xiu, his master, had many women already, but he never heard of this Han Qingwu. A demon barrier? What kind of woman is she? How could she become a demon barrier in Master's heart? What had transpired piqued a strong curiosity in him. He waved to motion the dozen carefully selected guards in the room to leave. After only the 2 of them were left in the room, he said, "What's going on, Tang Guang? Just tell me so I can also know what to do if I run into this woman in the future." Tang Guang forced a smile and said, "Properly speaking, this matter is not something I can tell you since Grandmaster will definitely punish me if he finds out. But you do have a point, however. I'll tell you what I know about this, but you must remember not to tell anyone else later." "Sure." Tang Along nodded. Tang Guang forced a smile again and went on, "I don't know about the specific details on this matter either. But one thing I know is that Han Qingwu was Grandmaster's teacher in high school, his class's teacher in charge, specifically. Later on, Grandmaster was admitted to Shanghai University and Han Qingwu also followed him there. Originally, we all thought that she would become the Grandmaster's woman. But after some time, she kind of became a taboo for him. Shortly put, you must remember to retreat whenever you run into this woman. You must treat any news you hear about her as if you never heard of them." This, Tang Along hesitated before he nodded without a word. "All right, let's set off. We gotta see the situation next door," Tang Guang said. In the next door. The 1,000 plus square meters hall was fully filled with LCD monitors everywhere. Every monitor showed strange places, and many practitioners were seen on the footage. Some of them were members of the Pyramid, some from the League of Archcrusaders, Stygian Club, but most of them were members of the 4 major military corps. Commander, the Dragon Army and the Tiger Army have pulled out the secret branches of these 3 organizations, whereas their core executives have been forced back to their strongholds and keep resisting. Additionally, the Phoenix Army engaged with House Dolan and all experts of this house were killed in the fight. It will only take at most 2 hours before we can fully exterminate the remnant force of the Pyramid, League of Archcrusaders, and Stygian Club. Aside from that, His Majesty has ordered us to investigate the Dark Wind and we've found their den. However, we have yet to fully dig out the list of their intel operatives in various countries. The Intelligence Department just sent a message that they will need a few days more. The casualties on our side are minimal according to the previous battle situation. The Dragon Army lost a total of 6 people, 9 people from Tiger Army, whereas the Phoenix Army reported 0 casualties. All in all, your battle plan has been implemented perfectly, Commander-in-Chief. Do you have any orders for our next moves? The place was a temporary military headquarters of the Great Tang Empire's campaign, and the people who just reported to Tang Along were the people he could train in recent years. Tang Along slowly shook his head and said, "Keep our advance according to the plan. Immediately start the next plan and get the reserve force to execute it should there be any emergency in any place. By the way, have the soldiers proficient in the memory erasing technique undertaken their duties? They have taken actions and erased the memories of ordinary people who witnessed the battles. This matter won't be a problem for us." "Good. Tang Along nodded and fell into silence. Although he didn't personally visit the battlefield to direct the battles, he was still updated about the situation on the battlefield through this monitoring system. He could even launch the final strike at the same time and still achieve great results just by issuing the order. Suddenly, Tang Guang asked, "Where's Grand Master now?" "He should be in Salzburg," Tang Along answered after thinking for a moment. "Is there a lineage of the Stygian club there?" Tang Guang frowned and asked.
"Yeah."
Tang Along nodded. Master said he also wants to see his old acquaintances in Salzburg to help guard China as well as some relatives left by members of the Great Tang Empire. Tang Guang nodded and smilingly said, "Grand Master is seriously putting heavy importance on relationship and righteousness, isn't he? He asked Duanmu Lin to promise him on this matter before, but now he went to the Salzburg bloodkin lineage, indicating that he wants double insurance. What do you think? Will Master bring those vampires to the immortal world as well?" Tang Along asked. "I don't think so," Tang Guang said. "We're going to face his life and death archenemies in the immortal world. He would never rashly take anyone he has no absolute trust in. Otherwise, should those vampires be compromised, they will expose the existence of our great Tang Empire and bring danger to all of us."
"Yeah."
Tang Along nodded in response. After 3 hours, the top 3 forces in the world were all massacred by the 3 corps of the Imperial Army of the Great Tang Empire, where 99% of their cultivators, ability users, mutants, and divergent races were all killed. Immediately after, Tang Along issued the last order. "Go all out to investigate the Darkwind's intel network in every country around the world, and then dig out their intel operatives in each country." Chapter 1272, The Frightened King Yama. Somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. The thousands of islands in the fog-shrouded vast expanse of the ocean were like countless pieces of colorful emeralds of various shapes, engraved on the blue ocean. Yama Island. The island was located on a spot out of the coverage of any spy satellites. The area was covered by black fog all year round thanks to the various concealment arrays. This place was the den of the Darkwind organization as well as the place mistakenly regarded as the Darkwind center of command by outsiders. There was even someone in charge in every place here. The Darkwind used this method as an obstruction to confuse their enemies. The entire Yama Island was forever shrouded by dark mist with a grim and creepy atmosphere. The castles were made of steel, some buildings shaped like long swords, while others looked like spears, triangular-shaped, diamond-shaped, and most of them were tower-shaped buildings. In the central area was a roughly 100-meter-high building with 19 floors. Those who saw this dark god tower from the outside would find that the edifice was not built on the ground but rather floated 18 meters from the ground. Bam! The gate at the bottom of the tower suddenly opened and a mysterious man whose body was covered by a black robe stepped in the air and went into the tower before the gate slowly closed. On the 19th floor. After the black-robed mysterious man stepped into the gateway, 18 men and women with various appearances and shrouded by black mists all bowed down and saluted. The man, however, didn't pay attention to them and took off his hat, revealing a bizarre face. His face was pale, the green veins on it were clearly visible. The red mole at the center of his eyebrows glowed with a fascinating light, and there was a red crescent blade mark on his left cheek. The man was eyeless and a dark cloud of smoke replaced the supposed eye sockets like a vortex. Afterward, he calmly watched a large number of virtual hologram screens in the surrounding before his expression finally changed and he said slowly, "The Pyramid, the League of Archcrusaders, and the Stygian Club, they were the world's top 3 organizations, yet they have been eradicated and uprooted in just several days. Unexpected yet very interesting. Even how stolen that is comparable to them has also been exterminated, all of which is beyond my estimation." King Yama. A burly, hulking man in a black combat suit raised his hand and stroked his bright bald head before fiercely saying, We've checked through various channels and our database about the identity and origins of these armies of child soldiers. There was a clash between House Dolan and some parties from China roughly 2 decades ago. Accurately speaking, there should be a deep blood feud as the aftermath, and, apparently, some people who were supposed to have died 20 years ago were spotted. The black-robed King Yama slightly creased his brows and asked, "Are they also in contact with Tang's sect?" Given the previous intel, we've proven that Tang Xiu, the magnificent Tang Corporation Hess owner, should have a deep relationship with Tang's sect. And his father, Tang Yunda, was seen among some people who appeared on the House Dolan battlefield. No wonder our intel operatives in China, as well as the rest of many groups we sent there, one after another, were like stones thrown into the sea. There has been no news about them either. The might of Tang's sect truly exceeds our expectations. King Yama, though these children soldiers are many in number, their individual strength is just average. I can completely wipe them out if you give me enough time. You said you can kill them all relying on your own power, Black Tiger? King Yama sneered. Are you kidding me? Ants can kill elephants with their numbers, let alone that these child soldiers are not ants. The weakest among them is at the Golden Core stage, and the stronger ones have power comparable to the Spirit Formation stage. What? The burly man's expression looked dull before incredulity replaced it. He hurriedly cried out, I've never found any Spirit Formation stage expert among them. Are the officers of these 3 armies actually Spirit Formation stage cultivators? King Yama no longer bothered to reply to him and looked at a petite female among the 18 people, asking lightly, Black Fox, is there any movement on our side as of recently? The masked petite female answered, nothing abnormal happened after the bloodbath due to the attack of that mysterious female cultivator on the concealed 4th island, 3 months ago. However, the Darkwind intel operatives in various countries sent us the news that they are being monitored and followed. Although I've ordered them all to go dormant, it is estimated that many of our people have been exposed. King Yama fell into silence for a long time. He then slightly creased brows and said fiercely, order the core members to completely withdraw and gather on the first hidden island and be on the standby. As for the other personnel, abandon all of them. Abandon all of them. The 18 people, including Black Fox, wore disbelieving expressions. They were well aware of how difficult it was for the Darkwind to form their organization. It took decades to form a comprehensive intel network on a global scale. Yet, they had to abandon it now? Wouldn't it mean that their previous efforts just went to waste in vain? King Yama forced a bitter smile and said, I understand what you have in mind. But our purpose in founding the Darkwind was to monitor the cultivation forces around the world while making money, to obtain cultivation resources, to begin with. We've already hoarded a lot of cultivation resources. But the situation now forces us to shrink our scope of surveillance. The emergence of this terrifying force is not something we can contend with, so the time has come for us to give up the rooks to save the king. Black Fox asked curiously, is this Tang sect really that powerful? This force is no longer called Tang sect, King Yama replied. What is it called now? Black Fox asked again. The Great Tang Empire. There was a bit of reluctance and unwillingness in King Yama's tone, but he still answered slowly. The Great Tang Empire? The 18 people exchanged dismayed glances, incredulity filling their faces. From the name, they inferred a very fearsome conclusion. Did these cultivators want to found a country of cultivators? If this country was truly built, wouldn't they be able to easily rule the entire Earth with its likely well-trained and powerful armies? How big their courage is, to think that they dare to build a country. Black Fox murmured. King Yama pointed to the holographic screen and said in a deep tone, the number of 150,000 children soldiers itself is already a terrifying number. Who can guarantee there will be no other cultivator armies in the Great Tang Empire? Even with their current armies, once you give them a few more years, decades, or centuries, to what extent their power will be by then. The most important thing is the extermination of the top 3 major forces and House Dolan itself. They clearly used this campaign as a drill. They want to make these children soldiers experience the flames of war and transform them into true soldiers. Ding, ding, ding. The loud bell rang the moment King Yama finished speaking, and the expressions of 18 people, except for King Yama, greatly changed in an instant. It was the sound of the underworld bell. King Yama had laid out a heaven-defying array, the underworld great array, and the underworld bell was the early warning demonic artifact placed on the outermost layer. Over the centuries, it only sounded 4 times. Each time was the coming of their archenemy, which eventually caused their Dark Wind organization to face a crazy battle that led to heavy losses. King Yama slowly closed his eyes and muttered, "It seems that we're their last target. Since we can no longer avoid them, we'll open the underworld passage. We'll keep staying in the human world if we win, but we'll go back if we're defeated." Suddenly, Black Fox's expression sharply changed and she shouted while pointing to the holographic screen. "King Yama, take a look at this quickly." King Yama instantly opened his eyes. As his eyes shifted to the direction pointed by Black Fox, his body suddenly shuddered because he saw tens of thousands children soldiers and cultivators on the holographic screen, riding on aerogliders in the air. He even found thousands of people laying out an overwhelmingly powerful array around the first concealed island with his spiritual sense, while 8 strangely shaped tanks appeared behind that array. The instant after, King Yama realized with his keen observation that this army of tens of thousands of cultivators was not the 150,000 cultivators that had previously massacred the top 3 forces and House Dolan. How many armies do they have exactly? How many cultivator soldiers do they have in their ranks? Despite being well informed, King Yama was still shocked by the number. Coming from the 9 Nether Underworld, he was one of the most powerful men there. He knew that the number of ghost cultivators in the entire 9 Nether Underworld definitely did not exceed 200,000. Additionally, the 9 Nether Underworld was thousands of times larger than Earth, and the number of ghosts inhabiting the plane was thousands of times larger than that of humanity on Earth. It was so much so that he was sure that the Great Tang Empire's military strength would have enough power to invade the 9 Nether Underworld in just a few decades or centuries. Activate the arrays. We are to evacuate at once if the Great Tang Empire has array masters. But if they don't have any, we can turn the tide by relying on the arrays. Feeling tense and restless, King Yama immediately began issuing orders. The moon sprinkled down its hazy moonlight. The vast universe was shrouded in the darkness above the first concealed island in the vast sea. At this moment, the entire 50,000 soldiers of the martial army had surrounded the small island group. A tank-like chariot quickly flew over the sea surface and soon appeared in front of the martial army. As the door opened, Tang Along, who gave off a scholarly aura and holding a jade flute, appeared in front of everyone present with a smile on his face. "Commander." 5 figures flickered and quickly came to salute Tang Along. "What's the situation here?" Tang Along slightly smiled in response and asked, "Has anyone from the Dark Wind appeared yet?" The black-uniformed Tang Jing, who was now 13+ years old, shook his head and said, "We've spotted a total of 162 people on the island through the recon drones, and all of them are gathering in the center of the island. Our thermal imaging equipment found a total of 142 cultivators among these people, the strongest of whom should be comparable to Golden Core stage experts. However, no one has come out after we surrounded this place. Not to mention that this island is covered and protected by some arrays, so we haven't mounted any attacks for the time being." "Arrays, huh?" Tang Along smiled in response. He had been studying arrays and learned quite a lot about this aspect recently. Thus, he wanted to test his accomplishments in arrays now. Chapter 1273, Captured Alive. Yama Island. The full black-robed King Yama's eyes flickered as he watched the scene outside the first concealed island on the holographic screen. deeply falling into thought. The overwhelming might displayed by the Great Tang Empire made him apprehensive and fearful. However, he still had 2 trump cards at hand that kept him from withdrawing to the 9 nether underworld. The first trump card was the great array he arranged outside Yama Island. It had a total of 18 layers, with each layer more powerful than the previous one. Unless the attacker had power comparable to an immortal, it was impossible for anyone to destroy them. The second trump card was his own strength. Although he had yet to reach the immortal stage, his strength was comparable to a great ascension stage cultivator. With his strength, he was still able to fight back against this army of tens of thousands of cultivators. After spending some time observing the situation, King Yama noticed that the strongest ones among the Great Tang Empire's experts were only at the nascent soul stage. However, these nascent soul stage experts were all very young. Thus he became fearful and suspected that there were likely some more powerful existences among their ranks. If his suspicion was right, then how high these people's cultivation level could be. What exactly is this guy doing, King Yama? Black Fox, who stood on the left rear of King Yama, inquisitively asked while her eyes fixed on the holographic screen. King Yama shifted his attention to the screen Black Fox's finger pointed. He slightly creased his brows upon seeing a young man giving off a scholarly aura. Don't tell me this guy is trying to crack my arrays? The layout of the arrays shrouding the first island may be simple, but no ordinary cultivator can ever crack it. These arrays can never be broken unless an expert comparable to the spirit formation stage uses a top-grade magic weapon and bombards them for a very long time. However, this brat is likely only at the nascent soul stage. There's no way he can possibly understand arrays, right? Let alone crack the arrays I've arranged? After he thought up to this point, King Yama let out a contemptuous look and lightly said, "He's just pretending and showing off. Looking at his appearance, he must be the commander of this army. Still, he's too young and just a boy. How can he break the array I've arranged here? He's trying to crack the arrays?" Black Fox muttered incredulously.
Meh.
What a wasted effort. King Yama sneered. Might as well let this punk study the arrays I've arranged here, so they will be struck with fear and retreat earlier. Black Fox smiled in response and respectfully said, "King Yama, the arrays you set up here are definitely profound and overwhelmingly powerful. Let alone this youngling, even a more powerful expert won't be able to shake these arrays in the slightest no matter how hard he wants to crack them." That's right. The other 17 people nodded and concurred with Black Fox's words. Let's wait and see, then. King Yama smilingly said, "They'll definitely try to strike the arrays. Still, they have tens of thousands of people. If all of them attack together, it will take a while before they can break the arrays covering the first hidden island." Suddenly, 5 seconds after he finished speaking, another scene transpired on the holographic screen. The array shield that covered the island that looked like a snow and ice scene quickly melted and dissipated. The layer of the array quickly vanished without a trace in just a few breaths after. What exactly happened? With a strange expression, Black Fox's voice inquired. King Yama's face darkened. Ashamed out of anger, he tried hard to suppress his uneasy feelings. He just watched and jeered at the efforts of this youth, yet the array was broken by him alone just after he finished speaking. That's right, the array just cracked. It was done without using any force and was easily broken just by cracking its principle. This punk, damn him. King Yama pressed his boiling anger and tried hard not to flip out in front of his underlings. However, he couldn't conceal the thick murderous intent in his eyes when he saw Tang Along on the screen. On the first concealed island. Tang Along wiped the sweat off his forehead and took a long, deep breath. Although he had been studying arrays diligently in recent times and had learned many profound principles of arrays, it was still a bit difficult for him to break these arrays by himself. If it wasn't for his master teaching him some array principles that happened to have some similarities with these arrays, He wouldn't have been able to crack the array in front of him in such a short time. While standing in midair, Tang Along stretched his body and then looked around at the complete scene in front before he said in a deep voice, "All the army soldiers, heed my order. Capture all the members of the Dark Wind on this island. Kill anyone without mercy should they fight back." In an instant, tens of thousands of soldiers on aerogliders launched attacks against the array in an orderly manner. But the entire army formation was still orderly despite all of them attacking from all sides. "Surrender, or all of you will die." A billowing, cold, and grim shout came from Tang Jin's mouth. In the next moment, 50,000 soldiers of the martial army shouted the same line in unison. The billowing shout was deafening and drilled straight into the sky. On the island, Black Snake's face was grim and frosty. A thick murderous intent flashed in his bewitching eyes. He firmly believed that King Yama would lead the rest to save him because he was the most faithful subordinate of the king. "Everyone, charge with me and kill them all. King Yama will definitely lead the rest here." Black Snake roared. A dark scythe suddenly appeared in his hand and its blade light suddenly flashed as he brandished it. The tens of black uniformed youth soldiers of the martial army at the vanguard position swiftly unleashed and brandished their magical swords in a neat and orderly manner. Slash. Just like a knife chopping on tofu, Black Snake's scythe was instantly cut into tens of pieces, but the violent sword beam kept slashing forward without a slight pause and hit Black Snake in a flash. Despite having a powerful cultivation level comparable to the nascent soul stage, Black Snake was hit badly and left tens of bleeding wounds on his body. "Fuck." Black Snake roared violently and fled. These teenagers' individual strength was just average, but they were adept in joint strike combos. Although most of them were only at the Golden Core stage, their joint attack combo sharply increased their striking power by several folds, and became more powerful than the strikes of a nascent soul stage expert. Tang Jin's figure flickered from a distance and instantly appeared at the battle scene. With a contemptuous look on his boyish face, he shouted aloud, "You've entered our battlefield. You can never escape even if your strength is 10 times stronger. Cease your resistance and be captured, else death will be your only option." Bang, bang, bang. Black Snake kept trying to break through in several directions, but he still ended up getting slashed by the legionnaires from all sides. What shocked him the most was the deaths of the hundreds of men under him in just a few minutes, while the remaining men who were still alive gave up and directly surrendered. "Your bullying is far too excessive." Black Snake took out a black banner from his sleeve. Waves of chilling wind blew as his intermittent voice spelled an incantation. Shortly after, unending streams of vengeful spirits drilled out of the ground until the number reached tens of thousands. These spirits' strength, however, was very weak. Most of them were only comparable to a foundation establishment stage cultivator. "Humph, a dying dog that will collapse with a single blow." Tang Jin sneered. He then looked at Tang Along as the latter sent him a voice transmission. "Keep him alive and capture him with an immortal shackle." Tang Jin's expression shifted. He immediately waved his hand to signal his legionaries to kill the spirits. At the same time, he took out a black rope from his sleeve, chanted an incantation and then threw the black rope towards Black Snake in an instant. "What the hell is this thing?" Black Snake felt like he was crashing into a glacier hole at this time. He clearly sensed the enormous aura of a cultivator that was much stronger than him from the black uniformed teenager, who was likely an officer. However, he was still hoping that King Yama would rush out to save him, so he gritted his teeth and went all out desperately, casting the dark mist into a black dragon that aggressively bared its fangs and talons to clash with the rope. "Destroy." Tang Jin let out a cold shout as he unleashed his immortal sword. It streaked fast and turned into a beam that smashed the black dragon instantly. The black rope quickly revolved around Black Snake and wrapped him tightly. "You want to capture me? Dream on." Black Snake quickly searched his netherworld force frantically and desperately struggled for a while. But the longer he struggled, the tighter the bind of the black rope and the weaker his struggle was. Shortly after, he sensed that a dark shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. A heavy blow then hit his forehead, causing him to faint instantly. Tang Jin coldly smiled. Although this dragon cord was not an immortal artifact, it was still a top-grade magical tool refined by Elder Ji Qimei. Unless one had strength comparable to an immortal, it was impossible for him to break free once he got bound by it. A few minutes later, all 50,000 soldiers of the martial army had landed on the island. After finishing setting up temporary camps, Tang Jin, Tang Mu, Tang Shui, Tang Hua, and Tang Tu quickly convened with Tang Oolong. As Tang Jin threw Black Snake in front of Tang Oolong, he saluted and asked, "Do you have any instructions as to how we're going to deal with this person, Commander?" Tang Oolong slightly smiled in response. He took out a silver needle and pierced an acupoint on Black Snake's body. Several seconds later, Black Snake slowly came to his senses, but his expression changed greatly after he saw the people around him. After seemingly recalling something, he suddenly looked up and shouted fiercely, "My Lord King Yama, why didn't you save us?" On Yama Island, King Yama stood in front of a holographic screen with a complicated look on his grotesque face. His 18 henchmen were his most trusted people. But even though this man was not one of them, he was well aware that Black Snake's loyalty to him was unquestionable. It wasn't like he didn't want to save him, but it was rather that he didn't dare leave Yama Island carelessly. He didn't know whether there was anyone else hiding among the ranks in the Great Tang Empire army in the dark. In case a large number of powerful experts were really hiding, he wouldn't be able to guarantee a safe escape even for himself. Hence, he could only give up on him. He didn't want to trade his own safety or the safety of his trusted henchmen to save another subordinate that had lost any chance to escape. Chapter 1274, Conditions and a Deal. King Yama. Black Fox, who had an unusual relationship with Black Snake, suddenly felt aggrieved and sympathized with him upon seeing how the man ended up. She even thought, would the king save me if I was the one who stayed on the first hidden island? She wasn't the only one who thought so, the other 17 people also asked themselves. Their conclusion, nevertheless, sent a chill down their spines. King Yama's gaze swept across the faces of Black Fox and the rest of his 18 underlings. He then slowly said, "The 18 of you are my most loyal people. You've been following me in the campaigns everywhere that finally gave us a territory to rule in the 9 Nether Underworld. But Black Snake is a different story altogether. Although he did choose to follow me, it was much later than you all, so he can't be compared to you. I'll surely do everything I can to rescue any of you if you were in his shoes." Suddenly, the 18 people felt ashamed for having such a thought. They trusted the king, and such trust was developed after countless years of fighting together in the campaign. So much so that they wouldn't hesitate to die for the king. They believed that if such a moment came, the king himself would do everything to save them. "But I'm still vexed, King Yama." Black Fox clenched her teeth with hatred and continued in a deep voice, "Are we going to hole up on Yama Island just like this? Are we going to let these great Tang Empire people impose shit on our heads?" King Yama frowned and asked, "What do you think we should do aside from holing up here?" Black Fox's eyes flickered with a cold light and she replied in a deep voice, "Open the portal to the 9 Nether Underworld and pull those fierce vengeful spirits. If anything, the vengeful spirits of 9 Nether Underworld will never reincarnate, to begin with. Rather than letting them survive in the 9 Nether's darkness, we might as well make them wield the blades and spears to fight for us on this battlefield." King Yama was silent for a moment before he shook his head and said, "Have you ever thought what kind of situation we're going to face once we release all those vengeful spirits in the 9 Nether Underworld? Will those 9 orthodox ghost officials who control the 9 hells just sit still and let us disrupt the order of the world?" "It's still nothing but an episode in a war," Black Fox replied. "At most, it will only cause confusion in the underworld and they won't be aware of what happened. Even if any ghost official comes from above to investigate, the war definitely would have ended by then. We can just go into hiding regardless of whether we lose or win the war. The Netherworld Authority will never be able to find us, and we can come again after some time. What about you guys? What do you think? King Yama shifted to the rest and asked. I concur. Agree. I'm fine with it. The other 17 people nodded as the killing aura radiating from them got more intense. King Yama weighed the pros and cons in his mind before he finally accepted Black Fox's suggestion. Then, he slowly stated, since all of you have agreed, then let's make this one a big move. Even if we don't win the final battle, we will give heavy blows to this great Tang Empire. But the most important thing is, I hate those damned officials in the Netherworld. The more troubles we can give them, the better and the happier it will be to us. Black Fox, you're responsible for bringing back all the members of our organization around the world. Activate the arrays of the 9th hidden island and gather them there. Additionally, I need 3 days to arrange the array. Once the portal to the 9 Nether Underworld is opened, unending streams of vengeful spirits will appear on the 9th hidden island. Understood. Everyone nodded and an exciting look overflowed in their eyes. As a group of lawless and wicked beings whose physical state was that of ghosts that practiced the ghost cultivation system, they were long used to a life full of death after cultivating it for millennia. Lives were nothing to them and they never batted an eye even if the number of deaths amounted to 1 or 10 billion souls. Further, their cultivation system required souls as supplements. Their strength may be able to improve rapidly and reach a higher level if they could devour a large number of souls. On the first hidden island, Tang Alang looked at Black Snake who had just regained his senses and spoke to him with a light smile. You thought that King Yama would come back to save you, yet he just gave you up directly. It's funny, isn't it? Are you feeling disappointed and furious now? Black Snake looked up with a fierce expression and said, disappointed and furious you say? Absolutely. But I hate you more than I hate him. I know you got something you want to ask me since you captured me alive. But you won't get anything from me. Well, if I'm not mistaken, you are not a human, are you? Tang Alang chuckled. Black Snake hummed coldly. I'm a Ghostkin warlord, a subordinate of King Yama. Fuck it. Why should I tell you? Tang Alang shook his head and smilingly said, well. I never thought that Ghostkin would appear in the human world. The most shocking thing to me is that you guys even established an organization here. This is interesting, really. Then, how about making a deal with me? What deal? Black Snake coldly hummed. You tell me what I want to know, and I'll fulfill 3 of your wishes, Tang Alang said. Of course, one wish must be to kill the one you've given your allegiance to, that King Yama whatever. As for the other 2 wishes, you can tell me later. Black Snake narrowed his eyes. He always liked schemes and tricks, so his mind quickly moved when he heard Tang Alang's words, thinking about how to rid himself of the predicament and how to get more benefits for himself. His hatred for King Yama was sky-high, indeed. He knew that he had been abandoned given what had transpired in the previous battle. He recalled how loyal he was to him, treating the man as his most important person, yet he didn't expect to be just a pawn in his eyes. What do you want to know? Black Snake calmly asked. Where's the nest of this King Yama whatever, and where's the den of the Dark Wind, exactly? Asked Tang Alang with a smile. Black Snake was silent for a few minutes before he tilted his head up and shouted fiercely, Yama, don't blame me for paying back what you did to me. You're the one who abandoned me and my brothers first. After roaring, he immediately tilted down his head to look at Tang Alang and said in a deep voice, the central command of the Dark Wind is only 200 nautical miles away. But the place doesn't exist on the satellite map since the entire Yama Island is fully covered by arrays, and no outsiders can find it. So, who's this King Yama, exactly? And how many experts are there in the Dark Wind organization? Tang Along immediately asked again. Yama is not from this world, and he's not the only one. His 18 underlings and I are not from this world either, Black Snake explained. We're from the 9 Nether Underworld, a place for vengeful spirits that can never enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. Yama has an honorable status in the 9 Nether as one of the 3 leaders in the underworld. We accidentally discovered a space crack, so we built a secret passage. However, it was easy to come out but very difficult to go back in. Of course, there's a way to work around it, albeit the cost that must be paid is quite great. Not to mention that we all like this place, so none of us is willing to go back unless it is a last resort. As for how many experts there are in the Dark Wind, aside from Yama whose cultivation is unfathomable, there are his 18 henchmen and hundreds of ghostkin cultivators cultivated by Yama himself. Tang Along narrowed his eyes and thoughts kept popping out in his mind. The matter involved 2 worlds, so he felt that he must report it to his master. Immediately after, he grabbed a communicator and dialed Tang Xiu's communicator number. It's me. Lang. Quickly, Tang Xiu's low and deep voice came out from the phone. There's an unexpected development here, Master, said Tang Along respectfully. The leader of the Dark Wind is a man called King Yama and he's not a human on Earth, but from the 9 Nether Underworld. We got this information from one of his men we've captured. Send me your coordinates. Don't act rashly for the time being. I'll catch up with you immediately, Tang Xiu said. Order received. Tang Along replied. After he sent his position coordinates, he looked back at Black Snake and asked, is this Yama guy you just mentioned really strong? He can become one of the leaders in the 9 Nether, so he naturally has an unfathomable cultivation level. Black Snake nodded. Further, he excels at array formation and has deep attainments on this aspect. He was the one who arranged the arrays around the first hidden island. Although I have no idea how you cracked this array, I think you understand his adeptness on this aspect. Tang Along nodded in response and said, you've told me what I want to know, so tell me the remaining 2 conditions. Black Snake thought for a while and then said, spare my life and take me to the place Yama will meet his demise. This is the conditions I want. You seem to really hate that King Yama whatever. Tangan couldn't help but laugh. Well, it's no surprise to me, though. You were loyal to him, yet he regarded you like trash and threw you away. That's something painful to bear and will cause deep hatred no matter who the person is. If anything, you're truly really pitiful, you know. Me? Pitiful? Black Snake closed his eyes with a pained heart, but the killing intent radiating from him became stronger. Tang Along didn't bother to pay attention to him again. He turned to look at Tang Jin's group of 5 and said in a deep voice, pass my order to the others to rest and recuperate well. Order the recon team to go immediately and survey 200 nautical miles in all directions. Tell them to look for something particular and abnormal. Keep in mind to return immediately and report to me once you've found a suspicious spot. Understood. Tang Jin's group of 5 nodded and went to execute the order quickly. After half a day, hundreds of scouts returned and Tang Along figured out the exact position of Yama Island. However, as Black Snake mentioned, the location was covered by arrays. If the scouts didn't have powerful strength and formidable escaping techniques, they would have been stranded and trapped in that location. Whoosh. 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 A figure flickered and moved lightning fast from a distance. As Tang Xiu came to the first hidden island, he stood in front of Tang Along and said in a deep voice, brief me the specific situation. Understood. Tang Along replied respectfully. Chapter 1275, Easily Breaking the Arrays. Tang Along reported the previous result of the investigation to Tang Xiu before he finally said, I thought that it was necessary to report to you since another world is involved in this matter, Master. You've done well. Tang Xiu nodded and said, also, this king of hell we're going to face next won't be as easy to deal with either. Master, Black Snake also said that aside from the 18 underlings of the king of hell, there are hundreds of experts he has trained under him. We now have 50,000 people in the martial army, added with a number of experts coming with you here. It shouldn't be too difficult to utterly destroy them, should it? Tang Xiu didn't answer Tang Along's question and said, Shuiyu should have followed you here. Tell her to come out to see me. Tang Along was bewildered and asked with a puzzled expression, huh? I've never seen Madame Shuiyu here, master. Tang Xiu creased his brows and instantly released his spiritual sense and found Shuiyu's figure near the seaside shortly. Mixed in among a squad, Shuiyu was wearing a black battle suit. Tang Xiu shook his head with a wry smile and suddenly appeared in front of her. He then said with a helpless expression, have you been having some fun here? The moment Shuiyu saw Tang Xiu, a curved arc of a smile immediately sketched on her face and she grinningly said, well, quite fun indeed. I already knew that the Legion has remarkable combat capabilities previously, but it was still shocking to tens of thousands of legionaries in action at the same time. But how did you know I've been following this army, though? You tagged along with the martial army, Kong Xia is following the dragon army, Ouyang Lulu is with the tiger army, and Mu Weining is secretly following the phoenix army. Of course, there are still some experts of the Great Tang Empire, who have been secretly following you all since I was the one who arranged them to do so. Huh? Shuiyu was surprised. Why didn't I find them at all? They are from the assassination department, that's why. Tang Xiu lightly smiled in response. Shuiyu instantly understood and said with a wry smile.
Ah.
The whereabouts of each and every one of those in the assassination department trained by Tang and is always bizarre. It's really not easy to find their tracks. Additionally, Yan was the one who trained those freaks for a long time. I'm afraid the weakest among them should have reached the spirit formation stage, yes? They indeed have reached the spirit formation stage, but it's still a chasm compared to an expert like you who has reached the body integration stage, though. Tang Xiu chuckled and said, anyhow, I didn't expect your cultivation to be so fast. To think that you improved so much in such a short time. Maybe it won't be long before you can break through to the Great Ascension stage, right? To have a bit faster cultivation speed is just natural for anyone who gets the inheritance of an exalted immortal, I think. Shuiyu smiled and said, anyway, you shouldn't be here. How come you're here now? We got a particular situation here. Tang Xiu's expression turned serious. The leader of the Dark Wind is actually from another world, so I rushed over to take over the operation. Anyway, let's head off to someplace to see this king of hell fella. Well, you got a big tone, you know. You even dare to call this king of hell or whatever. Shuiyu shook her head and sighed smilingly.
Meh.
Don't take this guy lightly. Tang Xiu said, being able to come here from another world, he's obviously very strong. He should be at least at the Great Ascension stage, I think. While chatting, Tang Xiu hugged Shuiyu's waist and flew towards Yama Island instantly. It took him and Shuiyu only a few minutes to appear on the periphery of Yama Island. After observing the scene covered by the dark mist in front, Tang Xiu shook his head and sighed. The place is indeed very hidden. It's impossible for any spy and recon satellite to spot any abnormalities and discover this island unless you come in person, and are able to detect the abnormalities yourself. Is it caused by arrays? Shuiyu creased her brows. Yup. Tang Xiu nodded. It's indeed caused by arrays, and not your ordinary arrays either. Having said that, Tang Xiu instantly released his perception and quickly understood the array formation in front. It took him only 10 minutes to completely understand 13 arrays in the surroundings, and he only faced some difficulties in the 14th layer. But after a few minutes of delay, he was also able to completely understand it. Break. Tang Xiu instantly unleashed the divine sword. It shot forward like a rainbow arrow toward Yama Island's direction. In just a flash, the 14 outermost arrays were easily broken. On Yama Island, King Yama stood in front of a holographic array, staring dumbly and tongue-tied after seeing Tang Xiu's sword strike. His heart pounded and hammered his chest as he watched the arrays break. How is this possible? He was sure that the youth just shortly arrived at the periphery outside. Yet, it only took a short time for him to see through and easily figure out the crux of the arrays he arranged. This was just outright unbelievable. Black Fox likewise looked horrified and hurriedly said, "How did he do that, King Yama? 14 layers of arrays, each of which is very powerful. How could he break all of them with one sword strike?" King Yama took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I originally had 2 trump cards. The first being my own strength and second the 18 layers of arrays. I didn't expect there actually to be people in the Great Tang Empire proficient in arrays. It's very likely this person's attainment on this aspect is far above me. But how is that possible?" Black Fox was shocked. "Your accomplishments in arrays are something that no one in the 9 Netherworld or even the entire Hell can be compared with, right? This guy is still very young, it's still acceptable if he has a high cultivation level. But how can he possibly have higher accomplishments in arrays compared to you?" King Yama's face became ugly. He shook his head and said, "There's nothing impossible in the infinite universe. This guy is definitely a freak among the freaks. If he can break the remaining 4 array formations, I'm afraid we must put our previous chance on hold. In case that his accomplishment in arrays is more powerful and he takes action to arrange one, the blow we'll face will definitely be devastating." Black Fox's pupils shrunk. She nervously stared at the holographic screen and secretly prayed that the remaining 4 arrays could obstruct this young man and keep him outside. On the periphery of Yama Island, Tang Xiu stood high in the sky. His eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the remaining 4 arrays and see the people within. A loud, thundering voice then came out of his mouth, "Hey, you, the leader of Darkwind called King of Hell or whatever. You came from another world yet you're able to form an intelligence network all over the world. You might as well come out to see me. I give you my word that I won't ambush and kill." After hesitating for a moment, King Yama disappeared from the tower in a flash. In the next moment, his figure reappeared on the coastline of Yama Island. He shot a look at Tang Xiu outside the array and indifferently said, "If I recognize you correctly, you must be the sovereign of the Great Tang Empire, Tang Xiu, yes?" "You have good eyes," Tang Xiu smilingly replied. "Tang Xiu, we have been minding our own business. I don't recall the Dark Wind doing anything against your interests either," King Yama indifferently said. "Why did you go so far as to make things difficult for my organization and lead your Great Tang Empire's armies to kill us? You've been disrupting order and broke the balance among mankind, that's why," Tang Xiu calmly said. "You went so far as to expose people's private information and make money out of it. Hence, you became a threat to us. So, let's chat. You want me to stop, then take out your people from this place and go back to your world. Otherwise..." "Otherwise what? You will kill me or something?" King Yama sneered. "Killing is easy given my current strength." Tang Xiu nodded. "The reason why I didn't break the remaining arrays directly or attacked you now is to give you and my men a chance. You wanna use my Dark Wind organization to train your troops, huh?" King Yama sneered again. "How smart and wise your excellency." Tang Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised. "Seems like my trivial ideas can't be concealed from you. So, what do you think about my condition?" "Nothing good to be said about it." King Yama sneered. "I'm not leaving unless you can break the arrays I've arranged in a short time." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "You know, it's easy for me to break them, but I think it's not yet the time to do so." "Humph. I admit that your accomplishment in arrays is remarkable enough since you can break the outermost 14 arrays," King Yama contemptuously said. But the remaining 4 layers are the most powerful arrays I can arrange. Breaking them won't be easy even if it is you. Are you sure? During the talk with King Yama, Tang Xiu's spiritual sense penetrated the 15th array and he completely understood it. Talking to this king of hell was simply his intention to delay time. Of course I'm sure about this, King Yama proudly replied. Tang Xiu faintly smiled and unleashed his divine sword again and powerfully struck the eye of the 15th array in front, destroying it directly and making it vanish instantly. Incredulity and disbelief were all over King Yama's grotesque face. He didn't expect that Tang Xiu was truly not deceiving him. He really had the ability to easily break the remaining arrays. What now? Do you believe me now? Tang Xiu took back his divine sword and asked with a smile. King Yama took a deep breath and shook his head again. Just try it and let me see how you do it again. Tang Xiu slowly took out a cigarette, lit it up, and took and exhaled several times. Then, he said, so you want to see my strength when breaking the arrays again, huh? Then let me show it to you once again. Sword of lightning, break. The divine sword accurately hit and easily destroyed the 16th array formation. You wanna see more? Tang Xiu smilingly asked. King Yama was extremely shocked. He never dreamed that Tang Xiu would really break the remaining array formations so easily. Who exactly are you? King Yama had been afraid of quite a number of people in his life, but this mysterious young man in front of him was undoubtedly the one that gave him the deepest dread. I've never altered or changed my name, you know. Tang Xiu chuckled. I'm the great Tang Empire's emperor, Tang Xiu. I'm not only the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, the offspring of House Tang of Beijing, the young divine doctor of Chinese medicine in China. I'm Tang Xiu, and my true identity is a cultivator.